One small machine, built in a struggling craftsman's workshop, would one day shake the church's grip on truth. It would help start wars. It would help start science. It would help start the modern world. The man who built it did not want any of that. He only wanted to sell books. Picture Europe in the year 1440. Books are rare. Books are precious. Every page is copied by hand, letter by letter, by monks and trained scribes. They work in cold, quiet rooms by candlelight, bent over their desks for hours. A large Bible can take one scribe more than a year to finish. It costs more than most families could ever hope to afford. Because of this, books stay in a few places: monasteries, universities, royal courts, and the homes of rich merchants. In most towns, only a small number of people can read well: priests, monks, nobles, merchants, lawyers, and officials. For everyone else, knowledge travels a slower way, by sermon, by rumor, by word of mouth. In some libraries, the few precious books that exist are even chained to their shelves to stop them from being stolen. Knowledge moves slowly. It stays behind walls, guarded by a small, educated class. In the German city of Mainz, a struggling craftsman is about to change all of that. His name is Johannes Gutenberg. He was born into a merchant family and trained as a goldsmith. In 1428, political unrest forces his family out of Mainz. They settle in the city of Strasbourg. There, far from home, Gutenberg begins quiet, private experiments with a strange new idea. He wants to build a machine that can copy words faster than any human hand ever could. Years later, he returns to Mainz to finish what he started, still deep in debt. He does not know what this invention will set off. He only knows he needs money, and books are worth a fortune. He lit a spark. He did not know what it would become. Gutenberg is not the first person in the world to try printing. Movable type had already appeared in East Asia, centuries earlier. But in Europe, no one had built a complete working system for it, not until now. Gutenberg's genius is not one invention. It is several inventions joined together. Metal letters that can be cast quickly, in large numbers, and used again and again. A thick ink that sticks properly to metal type, unlike the thinner inks used before. And a solid wooden press, built from a wine press, that prints page after page with steady pressure. One piece of luck helps him too. Paper, made cheaply from old linen rags, has been spreading across Europe for over a century. It costs a fraction of what animal skin parchment costs. Perfect timing for a machine built to print in bulk. Together, these pieces solve the oldest problem in the history of books: speed. And they solve a second problem too: mistakes. Hand-copied books drift over time. A tired scribe skips a line or misspells a word, and that error can live on in every future copy. A printed page does not get tired. Copy after copy, the words stay almost the same. To build this system, Gutenberg needs money he does not have. He borrows 800 guilders from a wealthy moneylender named Johann Fust. Later, Fust lends him 800 guilders more. The debt grows every year. The pressure grows with it. Inside the workshop, Trained workers set tiny metal letters into place, one by one, to form each line of text. Others mix the thick ink, load the paper, and pull the heavy press down, again and again, all day long. It is slow, careful, exhausting work, but nowhere near as slow as writing every letter by hand. Before Gutenberg becomes famous for his Bible, his press earns money elsewhere. He prints smaller, practical things: school books, calendars, and letters of indulgence, documents sold by the church that promise to forgive sins. This creates a strange twist. The machine that will one day challenge the church's power first serves the church's own paperwork. By 1455, after years of secret, expensive work, Gutenberg finishes his masterpiece. It is a full Bible printed in 2 columns, 42 lines to a page. Around 180 copies come off his press. No scribe, no matter how skilled, could match that number in a lifetime. One machine now does the work of 100 hands. That same year, pages of this Bible reach the great trade fair in Frankfurt. A visitor there, a scholar named Piccolomini, who will later become Pope, is amazed. The letters he writes home are so clean and even that he can read them without his glasses. He tries to buy a copy. He is told that every single one has already been sold. Gutenberg's secret invention is now the most talked about book in Europe. But Gutenberg's own city will not stay peaceful for long. In 1462, rival forces fight for control of Mainz, and the city is violently sacked. Trained printers scatter, fleeing for safety, and carrying their skills with them. Within years, new print shops open in Italy, France, and beyond, run by men who once worked in Mainz. The violence that could have destroyed printing instead helps push it farther across Europe. By 1480, printing presses are already running in more than 100 cities, from Rome and Venice to Paris and London. By 1500, more than 200 cities have their own print shops. Historians estimate that 20 million books have now been printed, for a European population of about 70 million people. Near Gutenberg's own hometown, the city of Frankfurt keeps growing as a meeting point for this new trade. Twice a year, printers and booksellers gather there to trade their latest work, a new kind of marketplace, built entirely around ideas. In just 50 years, books go from rare treasures to everyday objects. But the real turning point is still coming. In the German town of Wittenberg, a monk named Martin Luther grows angry. He watches a church seller named Johann Tetzel travel from town to town, selling indulgences for money. Luther believes forgiveness cannot simply be bought and sold. In 1517, he writes 95 arguments against this practice. He is said to have posted them on a church door, meant only for scholars and priests to debate. He never plans for ordinary people to read them. But printers copy his words immediately, without asking his permission. Within 2 weeks, copies spread through every corner of Germany. Within 2 months, they cross into the rest of Europe. Luther loses control of his own words almost the moment he writes them. The spark had become a flame no priest could blow out. The flame keeps growing. It becomes something no one can contain. Luther keeps writing, and printers keep printing his words. In 1518 alone, his works appear in roughly 87 separate print runs. By 1523, that number climbs to nearly 390. Luther becomes the best-selling author in the entire Holy Roman Empire. For the first time in history, one man's ideas reach an entire continent within months, not decades. Theology, the study of religion, has become mass media. In 1521, the Church summons Luther to a formal hearing called the Diet of Worms. They demand that he take back everything he has written. He refuses. His conscience, he says, will not let him take it back. Tradition holds that he closed with the words, "Here I stand, I can do no other." Historians are not certain he spoke that exact line, but there was no way back for him either way. He is excommunicated, cast out of the church. His ideas keep spreading anyway, book by printed book. The fire does not stay only with Luther. In 1524, German peasants begin rising against their lords, demanding fairer treatment. By 1525, they put their demands into a pamphlet called the 12 Articles. Printers copy and recopy it, spreading their cause across the German lands. Luther himself writes pamphlets back, first urging peace, later condemning the violence. Ideas that once spread through quiet conversation now spread through printed pages, fast and uncontrolled. The church cannot fight back fast enough. Handwritten letters cannot compete with a printing press. Western Christianity splits into two groups, Catholic and Protestant. Print does not create this conflict alone, but it pours fuel on the fire. It carries every argument faster, louder, and farther than any messenger on horseback ever could. Decades of religious tension follow across Europe. In the century that follows, a long conflict, later called the 30 Years' War, will tear apart the German lands, killing millions. But the fire does not stop at religion. The same machine that spreads Luther's words also spreads something else: science. Unlike a hand-copied manuscript, every printed copy is identical, down to the last letter and diagram. In 1543, a scholar named Copernicus publishes a book. It claims the Earth moves around the sun, not the other way around. Because his book is printed, identical copies reach universities across the continent. For the first time, scientists in different countries can study the exact same text, the exact same diagrams. They can compare notes. They can question each other's ideas. They can build on each other's work. Decades later, a scientist named Galileo builds on these same printed ideas and pays for it with a trial of his own. The printing press becomes an engine for two revolutions at once, one of faith and one of knowledge. Now it was not a flame. It was a wildfire, and no king, no pope, no army could put it out. But what happened to the man who lit the spark? Gutenberg never got to enjoy his own success. In 1455, just as his great Bible was finished, his lender Johann Fust took him to court over the unpaid debt. Gutenberg lost the case. He lost his workshop. He lost the very printing equipment he had built with his own hands. Fust took over the business, together with a young partner named Peter Schoeffer. There is a quiet twist here too. Schoeffer had once earned his living as a hand copyist, writing out manuscripts letter by letter. The very machine built to replace scribes was now run by one. Gutenberg did not disappear completely. He kept working in printing on a smaller scale in the years that followed. In 1465, the Archbishop of Mainz finally recognized his achievement. He gave Gutenberg a small court pension, grain, wine, cloth, and freedom from certain taxes. It was not wealth. It was not fame. But it was something. Gutenberg died in 1468. He never saw Martin Luther's revolution or the wars that followed it. He never saw Copernicus and Galileo change how humans understood the universe. He never saw the first newspapers, printed a century later, carrying daily news to entire cities. He never saw the Age of Enlightenment, when printed books and pamphlets carried new ideas about reason, freedom, and rights across Europe. He never saw those same printed ideas help fuel revolutions of their own, generations after his death. He never saw the modern world built, page by page, from his own invention. He lit the fire. He never felt its warmth. Today, most people who pick up a printed book have never heard his name. But every single one of them is holding a small piece of his spark. There is a lesson in this story. The biggest inventions are rarely judged by what their inventors intended. They are judged by what other people do with them long after the inventor is gone. Gutenberg wanted to sell Bibles. He ended up unlocking every book that came after him. A struggling craftsman, drowning in debt, built a machine to make money. Instead, he gave the world a way to read, to question, and to know. A single spark, struck in one small workshop, was enough to change how an entire world learns. That is the true story of the printing press. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to EraSpeak for more history that changed the world.